Hi everyone, my name is Michel Duarte. I'm the pastor of the Somos Church. Have you ever wondered, what does the Noah's Ark story have to do with Jesus on the cross? Or what the people of Israel being captive in Egypt has to do with Samson or any other of the stories in the Bible? Does the Bible really just have a bunch of stories, like random stories put together, or is it one story? We believe that the Bible presents one true story of the whole world that explains who God is, who we are, and why we're here. This week, we're going to be looking at creation and how that fits into the bigger biblical story. Join us today for this online teaching and then every week in person on Wednesdays. Stay connected with us, go to our website, reach out to us over social media to find out when we're getting together again. Welcome everyone. This week we are here at
Willow Springs Lake.
Willow Springs Lake. I can never remember the name of this lake. I'm trying. And we came because someone in our church was being baptized, and we got to baptize him in a cold water lake. And that was awesome. It was really good. And we're here because this week we're talking about the biblical story, and we're in the first part of the biblical story, which is creation. So what a better place to talk about creation than being here. We promise you, this is not blue screen behind us, This is not a prop, it's an actual real tree. We're here to talk about creation in God's creation. But what's the first thing they need to do?
Take a second, stop the video, and read Genesis 1 and 2. Take some time, read through it slowly, maybe even read it out loud, and let yourself just kind of sit in the creation story of the world.
The creation starts in Genesis, and Genesis, like any good story, would always start by setting the place, the people, the characters, and the purpose. So it starts with, like, in the beginning, God, setting the tone for who is the creator, who is the God that creates everything, and then talks about God creating everything, the earth and the stars and everything that exists. He creates everything. And it's a creation in the sense that it's a work of art. It's a work where he enjoys his creation. It talks about it saying it's good. Like he creates something and it's good. And at the end of his creation process, he creates mankind, a man and a woman, and he puts over his creation for us to continue to develop its potential. And that means that there's a lot more to the creation than just like a story at the beginning of the Bible that doesn't really connect to the rest of it. It's actually what's going to give a backbone for everything that we're going to learn about sin, and even all the way to Jesus. And the new creation only makes sense in light of the original creation. But there's other things that we can look at it today.
Yeah, so one of the things that we see from the very beginning is that God is the main character of the story. He's the one acting. He's the one determining how things are going to look and what things are going to be in the air and flying and what things are going to swim. And as the creator and the artist, that he is the one that is setting the purpose for each thing and what it looks like for it to reach its fullness and develop, and the direction that relationships and that creation care and how we take care of the world and how we discover things, that he has a purpose for the ways in which development and culture start to unfold.
And the important thing for us to understand that unlike the stories of creation that were around the time that Genesis was written, is the fact that the God of the Bible, the God of of Abraham and Moses, the God that we learn about in the Bible, he's a God that's involved in his creation. He creates his creation to be in relationship with his creation. At the end, we see God coming to the garden every day to enjoy, Adam and Eve, to enjoy his creation. And there's a perfect relationship. So one of the key aspects of understanding the story of creation is understanding that sets the tone to the relational aspect of it. That God created us to be the people who develop his creation, take the raw materials that exist and turn them into better things, turn into minerals found on the rock to something that can make a little chip that goes into your camera that's recording us right now. But also in the context of relationship, where we were in relationship with each other, those relationships were in a perfect place. We're in perfect relationship with the rest of creation, with animals, with the trees, with the land, and in perfect relationship with God. So when we come to a place like this that's full of people right now enjoying this place, sometimes people don't know how to describe it. They'll say, I feel good being creation. I feel like, some people say I feel God, or I feel a higher power when I'm in a beautiful mountain, anywhere that's like you see a natural beauty. And that's because we were created to be in relationship with creation, with nature, and with our Creator. And what we feel when we're in a place like this is actually just a little glimpse of what we're meant to have when we're all in those relationships are in the right place.
Yeah, and that cultivating of relationships. We see God puts humanity in relationships. He brings Adam and Eve together, and he gives them purpose, and he gives them things that there's to do. He gives them work to do. They're supposed to cultivate and multiply and make the land fruitful and keep going and to keep making this the potentials develop in the world. And so there's this place where we see in Genesis that work and participating with what God is doing is good. It's not something that is like an evil that's been introduced to the story. Work itself and participating in the work that God is doing is good.
And also understanding the story of creation, understanding the biblical story starting with creation, it's going to paint the picture to how broken the world is compared to what it was intended to be, right? Even understanding ethics and justice and all these things that we kind of crave, even as society, we crave to see things being put right. Well, if the starting point is not the biblical story in creation, and things are just created by chance, or not created by chance, just happened by chance, there's no like real big moral behind it. And God is that one that brings the purpose of us being created, that human beings being created in his image and likeness, to be in perfect relationship with one another, with his creation and with him. And the idea of bringing justice to racial reconciliation, to fighting poverty and destruction of the environment, all those things in light of God's good creation really makes sense, because it makes the case for a God that created everything, and he wants everything not to just be the way it was in the garden, but to be even better as we continue to be part of his plans for the whole of creation to come together and become what he had intended us to be.
Yeah, in those relationships, Genesis 1 and 2 uses words of vulnerability, and there wasn't any shame, and that there's this peace and this shalom and this care for one another. And so we see that perfect harmony and peace and the justice that we long for being part of God's design and the way that he intended the world to be.
Yeah, and that image of the garden in creation too is also a picture of being like a temple, like a place where God's presence was there, like God was coming at the end of the day, hanging out with Adam and Eve, and he was just walking with them. And we're responsible for spreading that God likeness, that God's presence throughout the world. That was God's original plan. And we're going to learn next week that things didn't go as planned, and we rebelled against God. But having that in mind, what we had at the beginning really helps paint the picture to how bad things are going to be in light of what they should have been. Do you have anything else to add?
I think we need to remember that as God set forth kind of the way and direction of his creation, that he loves the created world, and that this material world, our bodies and the things that we see, aren't something that we're trying to be rid of or that are holding us back from knowing God, but that it is through our bodies and through this created world that he comes to us, and that he allows us to be changed in our relationships with other humans. That's how we grow and mature, and we see God reflected through their lives. And so our becoming whole and developing as people is connected to each other, that we don't exist as individuals, that there's not a space where we can grow and reach towards what God has for us by ourselves. And so as we continue in the story, we'll see that God continues to be creating people in a humanity. And it's not a story of a bunch of individuals. It's a story where the embodied life matters and what's happening in the created world, that God is deeply committed to the well-being of this world.
Yeah. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope this was just a good really introduction to the story of creation. And of course, there's a lot more we could unpack and go through the Bible and really look at it together. But I hope that gets you thinking through it and reading and praying through it and really setting the tone for what we're going to go through the next few weeks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.